7 dirty things women secretly want but will never ask for. Look around you. Society lies. We are told to be soft, to be accommodating, to always ask for permission, but nature does not operate on polite agreements. Deep down, beneath the corporate suits, the independent mantras, and the carefully curated social media smiles, a very different and fiercely primal truth exists. Biology whispers in the dark. It demands something raw, it demands something unpolished. She is exhausted, completely and utterly drained. She is exhausted from carrying the heavy weight of constant decision-making in a modern world that relentlessly demands her to be flawlessly strong at every single moment of the day. The modern narrative tells her she needs a partner who is her exact equal, a gentle teammate who will split the emotional bill right down the middle and ask her how she feels about every little detail. But the feminine core rebels against this forced equality. It seeks a polarity that modern culture labels as dangerous, toxic, or simply dirty. These are not the polite conversations she has at Sunday brunch. These are not the sanitized fantasies she admits to her friends. These are the unspoken desires, the hidden psychological triggers locked away in the deepest, most guarded vault of her mind. She will never ask for them, because asking ruins the entire magic of the dynamic. Asking puts her right back in the driver's seat, forcing her to manage yet another situation, and the ultimate, most profound, dirty secret of the modern woman. She desperately wants to let go of the wheel. You must listen. You must observe. You must remain still. If you truly want to understand the complex architecture of her deepest desires, you have to completely step outside the matrix of polite modern conditioning. Let us look at the reality of her daily life. From the moment she wakes up, she is a manager. She manages her stressful career, her public image, her chaotic social circles, and far too often, the remarkably fragile egos of the weak men around her. It is a heavy armor. It is a suffocating mask to wear. Culture calls this empowerment. But true psychological liberation for her does not come from endless control. It comes from the rare, terrifying, and intoxicating ability to completely surrender it to a man whose presence is heavier than her anxiety. Most men fail. They apologize, they compromise, they shrink. You will not shrink. You are here to learn the 7 psychological realities that women crave with every fiber of their being but will take to their graves before requesting. This is not about superficial tricks. This is about emotional gravity. Are you ready? Let the illusion burn. Secret number 1. The unapologetic takeover. Modern relationship advice constantly drills into your head that you must communicate every single minor detail, checking in with her constantly to ensure maximum comfort and equality in every shared decision. Where do you want to go? What do you want to eat? Is this okay with you? While this sounds perfectly respectful on paper in the raw reality of female psychology, this relentless questioning slowly builds a subtle but exhausting cognitive load that entirely drains her primal attraction to you. Stop asking for permission. When you constantly ask her to make the trivial decisions, you are not being the sweet and considerate partner you think you are. You are actually throwing the heavy burden of leadership right back onto her tired shoulders. She spends her entire day making calculated choices for her career and managing the heavy expectations of everyone around her. She wants a break. She needs a break. The dark, unspoken desire she harbors is not about tyranny or disrespect, but rather the profound psychological relief of a man who simply looks at the chaotic world and confidently says that he has it handled. Make the plan. Execute the plan. Imagine the overwhelming wave of peace that washes over her, when instead of another tedious negotiation about dinner, you simply tell her to be ready at 7 because you have already secured the table and mapped out the evening. You're entirely removing her need to think, analyze, or worry about the logistics of the interaction. You take the wheel, you claim the space. This unapologetic takeover is incredibly intoxicating because it loudly signals a level of uncompromising, masculine incompetence and self-assurance that finally allows her hypervigilant nervous system to completely relax in your presence. Do not hesitate, do not falter. If you make a bold choice and it turns out to be less than perfect, your quiet confidence in owning that mistake is still infinitely more attractive than the weak, paralyzing indecision of a man who stubbornly refuses to lead his own life. She will test your resolve. Sometimes she might push back slightly, not because she actually hates your plan, but because her deepest evolutionary instincts need to verify that your mental frame is solid enough to withstand her pushback without immediately collapsing into a pathetic apology. Hold your ground, stay completely calm. When you finally stop asking for permission to lead and simply assume the responsibility with a deeply grounded stoic energy, you give her the absolute greatest psychological gift possible. You give her the absolute freedom to simply exist, experience, and be entirely feminine within the secure, unbreakable boundaries of your world. Secret number 2, the unshakable wall. There is a highly misunderstood dynamic in human psychology regarding conflict, emotional turbulence, and the terrifying concept of female rage. She will create storms. She will test you. Modern relationship therapists will quickly tell you to validate every single shifting emotion she throws at you and carefully talk through the chaos until the anxiety magically disappears. Do not do this. It is a trap. Her deepest, darkest secret is that she occasionally manufactures emotional chaos, not because she wants a logical fight, but because her primal instincts desperately need to measure the absolute strength of your emotional spine. She pushes your buttons, she bites back. When she is swept away by the intense hurricane of her own feelings, looking at you with blazing anger or profound frustration, she is secretly praying that you do not break down and join her in the storm. Remain still, breathe deeply. If you immediately react with loud anger, defensively whining, or desperate attempts to quickly fix her mood, she instinctively registers your behavior as fundamental weakness and a complete loss of masculine frame. You fail the test, sourced. Respect dies instantly. What she truly desires more than any polite apology or logical explanation is for you to look directly into the raging fire of her emotional outburst with the terrifyingly calm, immovable stillness of a massive stone wall. Let the storm rage. Stand your ground. Instead of being a fragile leaf helplessly blown around by the chaotic wind of her changing moods, you must become the deeply rooted tree that remains entirely unshaken by the passing weather. She hits the wall. She feels safe. When she eventually realizes that her most destructive emotional turbulence cannot manipulate you, control you, or force you into a reactive panic, a profound psychological shift occurs deep within her feminine core. The chaos slowly fades. The tension drops. The dark desire to be completely overwhelmed by a man's unyielding emotional stability is fulfilled, allowing her to finally relax, knowing that the masculine structure holding her reality together is truly unbreakable. Do not try fixing, just be present. This is the true essence of Stoic philosophy applied to modern romantic dynamics, where your internal mastery effortlessly disarms her external chaos without ever needing to raise your voice or prove your point. She tests your boundaries. You hold firm. By simply refusing to let her anxiety infect your calm center, you silently prove that you are strong enough to protect her, not just from the outside world, but from the overwhelming nature of her own mind. She surrenders to strength. The storm ends. Secret number 3, the primal claim. Society conditions men to rely on clever words, carefully constructed compliments, and safe, polite flirting. Techniques designed entirely to avoid the risk of causing any offense. Words are cheap. Words are safe. What she secretly craves is the terrifying intensity of a silent, penetrating gaze that strips away all her carefully constructed social defenses and speaks directly to her deepest biology. Look at her. Truly see her. She does not want to be selected because of a rational, well-thought-out checklist of compatible personality traits or shared hobbies that make logical sense on a modern dating profile. She wants raw hunger. She wants desire. The dirty secret is that she wants to feel the undeniable weight of your physical attraction, an unapologetic, animalistic pull that makes her feel entirely consumed by your masculine focus. Hold the eye contact. Do not look away. When you lock eyes with her across a crowded room, or in the quiet intimacy of a paused conversation, your gaze must be a physical force that physically anchors her to the present moment. Let the silence speak. Let the tension build. Most men panic in the silence, rushing to fill the heavy air with nervous laughter or meaningless chatter because they're absolutely terrified of the naked vulnerability that true eye contact creates. You do not panic. You embrace the fire. You look at her with the quiet, dangerous confidence of a predator observing its environment, communicating absolute certainty without ever needing to open your mouth to explain your inner intentions. Your eyes claim her. Your silence commands. This primal claim makes her heart race and her stomach flutter, triggering an ancient evolutionary response that bypasses her logical brain and forcefully activates the deepest centers of feminine arousal. She feels the heat. She feels exposed. To be looked at with such unyielding, focused intensity is a profound psychological thrill, offering her the deliciously dangerous feeling of being caught by a man who knows exactly what he wants. Do not apologize. Own your desire. By mastering the art of the primal claim, you establish a magnetic unspoken dominance that sets the foundation for a deeply intoxicating dynamic built entirely on raw, unfiltered clarity. Do not look down. Never look away. When she eventually drops her gaze, overwhelmed by the sheer unapologetic weight of your masculine presence, you will know that the psychological shift has successfully occurred within her mind. The game is over. The truth remains. You have successfully bypassed the superficial layers of modern dating and directly touched the ancient biological core of what it truly means to be a grounded man claiming a feminine spirit. Secret number 4. The controlled edge. The modern dating marketplace is absolutely flooded with perfectly harmless, predictably safe, and entirely accommodating nice guys who desperately try to win her affection through endless acts of submission. She is utterly bored. She feels nothing. A man who is completely harmless is not morally superior. He is simply incapable of creating the necessary psychological friction required to spark any genuine, lasting biological attraction. Be a monster. Control the monster. The dark unspoken truth is that she is profoundly drawn to a man who possesses the undeniable capacity for ruthless aggression, but who exercises absolute ironclad discipline over his darker nature. She wants the danger. She wants the edge. When she looks into your eyes, she needs to see a dangerous shadow lurking just beneath the surface, a subtle warning to the rest of the world that you are a formidable force of nature. You are not safe. You are secure. There is a massive psychological difference between a man who is harmlessly safe because he lacks power and a man who is incredibly secure precisely because he keeps a highly dangerous beast on a very tight leash. She feels the thrill. She feels alive. This controlled edge creates a deliciously intoxicating tension in the relationship, constantly reminding her that she has successfully captured the attention of a man who could easily destroy his enemies, but chooses to fiercely protect her instead. Do not be weak. Do not be harmless. The philosophy of Stoicism teaches us to cultivate immense internal power, forging our minds into lethal weapons, while simultaneously developing the profound wisdom required to keep that weapon holstered until absolutely necessary. She senses the capability. She respects the restraint. When you handle external conflicts with an icy, calculated precision, entirely refusing to lose your temper, while completely dismantling a disrespectful opponent, she feels a profound wave of primal submission wash over her. She knows your power. She trusts your control. She does not want a golden retriever who wags his tail at every passing stranger. She wants a lone wolf who bares his teeth to the outside world, but gently rests his heavy head in her lap. The contrast is everything. The paradox is key. By mastering your own darker impulses and channeling that aggressive energy into productive, focused ambition, you become the thrilling, dangerously competent masculine figure she secretly dreams about in the dead of night. The nice guy loses. The disciplined beast wins. Stop apologizing for your masculinity. Stop filing down your teeth. The modern world wants you weak, compliant, and thoroughly domesticated. But her ancient biology fundamentally rejects that narrative, screaming for a partner who can effortlessly navigate the harsh realities of a dangerous environment. Embrace the shadows. Keep the edge. Secret number 5, the focused ego breaking. Every single day, the modern woman is intensely pressured to project an image of absolute perfection, projecting an aura of untouchable independence, flawless competence, and an ironclad control over her emotional state. She must be strong. She must not fail. This relentless societal expectation forces her to build a massive, impenetrable wall around her ego, essentially trapping her softest, most vulnerable feminine essence behind a heavy, exhausting mask of professional armor. The armor is heavy, the armor cracks. Her deepest, most intensely guarded psychological desire is to find a private, sacred space where a man is strong enough to completely shatter that public ego and force her to finally drop the defensive act. Break her walls, strip the ego. This is not about cruelty or disrespect. This is about profound liberation, creating a heavily guarded container where she is entirely stripped of her titles, her responsibilities, and her relentless need to constantly be in charge. She wants to yield. She wants to break. When you assert your masculine frame with an overwhelming, immovable presence, you silently grant her the ultimate permission to be completely unraveled, messy, and intensely emotional, without any fear of judgment or rejection. You hold the space. You absorb the impact. Imagine the overwhelming psychological relief she experiences when you finally look past her aggressive boss babe facade, calmly dismantle her defensive arguments, and gently but firmly put her back into her feminine place. She fights it first, then she melts. She may initially resist this focused ego breaking out of sheer habit, testing the structural integrity of your emotional boundaries to see if you will apologize and let her quickly rebuild her comfortable walls of control. Do not apologize, push right through. By refusing to be intimidated by her impressive career, her sharp intellect, or her defensive attitude, you prove that your masculine core is infinitely heavier than the temporary manufactured ego she wears for the outside world. The mask shatters. The truth emerges. In that beautifully vulnerable moment of complete ego dissolution, she finally experiences the profound, life-altering freedom of true feminine surrender, entirely trusting you to safely catch her as she completely lets go. She breathes again. She feels safe. This specific dynamic is highly intoxicating because it provides an emotional release valve for all the built-up pressure of modern life, allowing her to finally rest in the secure shadow of a genuinely capable man. You are the rock, she is the water. Mastering this delicate psychological balance requires immense emotional intelligence and a rock-solid stoic foundation, ensuring that you break her ego not to destroy her but to set her deeply buried feminine spirit totally free. The breaking is healing. The surrender is power. Secret number 6. The anticipation. Modern culture has created a paralyzing fear around physical escalation, explicitly teaching men that every single movement must be preceded by a formal verbal request for consent that entirely ruins the natural flow of human intimacy. Words destroy the magic. Explanations kill the mood. What she secretly desires deeply hidden beneath the heavy layers of modern social conditioning is a man who is so incredibly attuned to her subtle bodily frequencies that he simply acts without ever needing to ask. Read her silent cues. Trust your deep instinct. When she is standing in the kitchen, completely overwhelmed by the chaotic thoughts of her stressful day, she does not want you to gently ask if she would like a comforting hug or some polite emotional support. Do not ask her. Just take immediate action. She desperately wants you to simply walk up behind her, wrap your strong arms firmly around her waist, and pull her back against your solid chest with an unspoken authority that instantly melts away her lingering anxiety. She feels the heavy pull. She lets go completely. This silent anticipation is a profound psychological trigger because it perfectly demonstrates your supreme masculine competence, proving that you have successfully studied her biological rhythms and truly understand her unspoken needs better than she does herself. You're paying close attention. You're deeply present. She does not want a highly predictable, overly communicative partner who treats romantic intimacy like a carefully negotiated business contract filled with endless verbal clauses of polite permission. The silence is extremely loud. The physical action is absolute. When you smoothly transition from a casual, quiet conversation into a deeply passionate physical interaction, without a single second of awkward hesitation, you're effectively overriding her logical brain and communicating directly with her primal biology. Watch her shifting body language. Listen to the unspoken truth. It requires immense internal confidence and a rock-solid, stoic observation to perfectly read the microscopic shifts in her breathing, the subtle dilation of her dark pupils, and the heavy tension resting softly in her tired shoulders. No words are ever needed. The human body knows everything. By completely trusting your own masculine intuition and decisively acting upon it with calm, unwavering certainty, you completely eliminate the exhausting cognitive loads that verbal negotiation requires, leaving her entirely free to just deeply feel the intense connection. Anticipation builds the raging fire. Absolute tense fuels the raw desire. This masterful execution of silent physical boundaries permanently separates the timid boys from the truly grounded men, establishing a breathtaking emotional dynamic where she eagerly waits for your next unpredictable move in the quiet spaces between your words. You claim the fleeting moment, you own the shared space. Secret number 7. The final surrender. This is the absolute peak. Everything we have discussed up to this exact moment builds the necessary psychological foundation for the most profoundly beautiful and deeply terrifying experience a modern woman can ever silently crave. She wants to give up. She wants to let go. We are not talking about the toxic, destructive submission born from deep trauma or paralyzing fear, but rather the majestic, willing surrender that only truly happens when a highly capable woman finally meets a completely immovable masculine force. The logical brain shuts down. The anxious mind finally sleeps. When you successfully combine the unapologetic takeover, the unshakable emotional wall, the primal eye, contact, the dangerously controlled edge, the ego-breaking tension, and the silent anticipation, you create an absolute masterpiece of biological polarity. You become her ultimate sanctuary. You become the heavy anchor. In this perfectly guarded space, the exhausting modern narrative of hyperindependence completely dissolves, allowing her deeply feminine essence to emerge and entirely trust the structural integrity of the reality you have built around her. She stops fighting the tide. She surrenders to the ocean. The ultimate dirty secret is that she desires a man whose physical and psychological presence is so overwhelmingly dominant and inherently safe that she no longer has to carry the crushing weight of the world on her own tired shoulders. You lead the quiet dance. She follows without any hesitation. This level of profound surrender is the rarest jewel in modern dating, an exquisite state of being where her nervous system completely downregulates and she allows herself to be entirely enveloped by your uncompromising strength and stoic calm. The battle is completely over. True peace finally begins. By embodying the ancient archetype of the grounded masculine leader, you are not oppressing her spirit. You are actually providing the exact environmental conditions required for her to bloom into her most authentic, deeply relaxed, and fiercely passionate self. Do not break this trust. Guard it with your life. When she finally hands over the heavy keys to her kingdom, stepping down from the lonely throne of endless responsibility, she expects you to rule with a profound blend of iron discipline, gentle wisdom, and unwavering commitment. The masculine structure holds her. The feminine energy flows freely. You have become the immovable mountain that she has desperately searched for her entire life, a quiet force of nature that effortlessly absorbs her chaos and continuously reflects back absolute, uncompromising certainty in an unpredictable universe. She rests in your shadow, she thrives in your light. Before you attempt to master her world, you must entirely master your own chaotic mind. Self-control is everything. Discipline is true power. You cannot offer the profound safety of a deeply rooted mountain if you are still quietly trembling at the very first sign of a passing storm. Build your foundation. Sharpen your mind. True stoic leadership is not about aggressive domination. It is about cultivating an internal stillness that naturally anchors everyone around you. Look inward first, then lead. What is the unspoken truth you are currently hiding from yourself right now? Share your story below.